Begin each day as if it were on purpose.
I have to say this, and I always say it, but anytime I get a reception that warm, I feel like I need to let everybody know, Will Smith is not coming. That's as good as it's gonna get right here, all right? I will also share with you, that was a pretty crazy time in my life. When they start talking about the biggest movie star in the world playing you in this next film, your life changes. I mean, anytime I see any piece of that film, I have the exact same thought. Those people spent $70 million to recreate what I did with nothing. The second thought is that change can be pretty jarring and pretty strange. Like the time around I did that first interview with Barbara Walters. I had to agree to do something I now know I would never do again. I had to agree to let people follow me with television cameras for 3 days. From New York to Chicago to San Francisco. That's a lot of tape, right? Then they cut it down to 17 minutes. And there's something about Barbara Walters saying your first and last name and you don't know what she's gonna say next that make you pay attention. Like the time all of the people in Hollywood were suddenly interested in, this guy calls me, he's got this great idea for a reality TV show, he thinks. He wants to create a reality TV show based on homeless people. Wants me to be the judge. He's gonna take some homeless people off the street, clean them up, give them a job, and the one that goes on to do the most with their life is gonna get a $500,000 house, $100,000 in cash, and all this other great stuff put up by sponsors. You know what I told him? Homelessness is not a game. But if you think it is, I already won, so send me my money. Never heard from him again. Like this other time, I'm in Los Angeles, I'm meeting with all these guys, they're talking to me about making a movie. We meet these 3 guys, Steve Tisch, Todd Black, Jason Blumenthal. And I'm not believing any of this stuff. We sit down with these guys, and one of the guys asked me a question. It was Steve Tisch, and he says to me, I understand you said no to being on the biggest TV show in the world. Why would you do that? I couldn't think of another way to answer, so I leaned into the guy and I asked him, you ever see that movie Forrest Gump? And the guy says, yeah. Well, there was a scene in the film where Forrest stumbles into an anti-war rally. They want him to speak out against the Vietnam War, but somebody pulled the plug. When they jacked it back up, what you heard Forrest say is, that's all I got to say about that. Huh? Wrap the meeting up, get in the elevator. The guy who had set the meeting up looks at me and says, Chris, by the way, Steve Tisch produced Forrest Gump. Hey, I didn't know. Oh, think about that for a second. Forrest Gump won 6 Oscars, was the 3rd highest grossing film in history, and I'm asking a man, had he seen his own movie? That's what got the deal done. They knew this boy's the last Okie from Muskogee. He ain't got no idea. As jarring and strange as change can be, there were times when it was hard to imagine that my life would be what it is today. Especially the time when my son and I were living in that bathroom. Maybe you remember that scene in the movie. There was a highly polished sheet metal piece over a sink. It wasn't a mirror, but it served as a mirror. And I had to wash myself in that baby every day, wash my baby in that sink, and I had to ask myself some very predictable questions. What happened? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? But the most difficult question I had to get through was, how did I get here? And the answer was even more brutal. The answer was, I drove here. I had something to do with it. You can't change something until you own it. So if you're 50 plus and you're sitting out there and pointing fingers at other people, you can do that for a long time. But it's hard to look in the mirror and say, how did I get here? And have the answer be, I drove here. I had something to do with it. It's uncomfortable to admit that, well, I made some bad decisions. I made some investments I shouldn't have made. I had something to do with it. When that man sold me that house for no money down, I should have told him what he could do with that house. Huh? When I signed that adjustable rate mortgage, we all know these things only adjust upwards. No one's ever going to call you and say, guess what? You're going to pay less for your money in your house next year. Ain't going to happen. So the idea of I drove here is empowering, because the other side of it is, if I drove here, that means I can drive out of here. I have to own it. In that bathroom, I finally had to understand what my mama used to say to me, when she would say, boy, the Calvary is not coming. Ain't no backup. I was 28 years old when that part of my life happened. Change was coming fast. And you know what? Change is everywhere, all the time. Social change, technological change, and the most potent of all, personal change. The most urgent question today is not so much as what are my values and who are we? The urgent question in these times of constant change is, how exactly are you going to navigate these new realities? Put another way, what are you going to do? The answer is reimagine life. Some time ago, my friend Barry Rand said about change that it is shifting power away from large institutions and towards individuals. This is having a profound effect on 50-plus Americans who are busy creating a new, more vital paradigm for the second half of their life. For them, for us, at 50-plus, we're looking for a chance to grow in new and rewarding ways. They're not looking to replicate the first half of their lives, nor do they want to sit back and just slowly fade into the night. They're looking to reimagine the 50-plus experience and make it true to who they really are. At 50-plus, all of us have been down some of the same roads, maybe in different places, at different paces, and with different expectations. And all of us have had to reimagine our lives at times, whether we wanted to or not. And you know what? I'd bet that the most radical personal changes we've made in our lives weren't triggered by our ideas. They were triggered by life happening. And someday, you're going to lose someone that you love. And you're going to have to reimagine your whole life. And let me tell you something. Will nothing make you reimagine life like the loss of a loved one? Unless you've been there, ain't nobody can prepare you to understand how totally your life is going to change. Today, unfortunately, I can say I've been there. The only way to start is from the beginning. And the beginning for me was this past July, when I lost my best friend, my soulmate, and the love of my life to brain cancer. Holly and I had been together for 20 years. Hold up. I just heard her voice. And she says, no, it was not 20, it was 19 years because she had 1 year off for bad behavior. Hey, things happen, all right. Holly and I did everything backwards. To my recollection, we were a couple for 12 years, lived together for 7 years, and then decided to get married. I will never forget the day I had to call Holly's dad and ask for permission to marry his daughter. I'm not old, but I am old-fashioned. And Holly had never been married. And her dad said to me, son, I've been waiting on this call for 55 years. You have my permission. Despite being sick, Holly arranged to have a mass dedicated to her parents where they renewed their vows after 70 years of marriage. Huh? Can you imagine that? 70 years. Let me tell you something. Whoa. And when the priest asked them, did they want to renew their vows, you could hear a pin drop in that church. And the priest says, Ed, you may now kiss your bride. Man, them folks went at each other like teenagers on prom night. I was like, man, y'all need to get a room. Holly's illness began 4 years ago. I had just returned from a business trip. We had dinner like we normally do, went to bed about 10 o'clock. The next morning, we woke up, and she says to me, I'm losing my vision. And I heard her as clear as day, but I didn't know what she meant. And I'm sitting on the edge of the bed trying to figure out, and I started with a bunch of questions that helped me just catch my breath. But what does that mean? Losing your vision, is it fuzzy? Is it blurry? But there was something about the way she said it, something in how it felt that let me know, whoa, this is serious. Then a few more questions dawned on me. Hey, wait a minute. You just drove to Arkansas and back knowing that you could not see. Don't you know I would not have let you take that trip if I knew? I says, yeah, I know. That's why I didn't tell you. The questions I was asking were meaningless. Now, I have a manageable eye condition. It's called glaucoma. Some of you might have it too. 20 years ago, I found one of the premier glaucoma specialists in the world, Dr. Ted Krupin, who lives in Chicago where I live, and he's still taking care of me now. Now, as we all know, getting in to see your doctor when you want to, which is usually right now, doesn't always happen. But Dr. Krupin says, get in here. We go in, same day. Later that day, I get the call. I get the call that nobody ever wants to get. When your doctor, who you trust, who's been treating you for 20 years, calls you up and asks, are you sitting down? That's the call that kind of gets the life reimagined wheels spinning before you know what's up. Our lives were about to change forever. I was sitting down, but I was driving. Pull over, stop the car. Dr. Krupin says, we need to get further tests immediately. Specialists need to be consulted immediately. All right, here we go. Holly and I did something that we both know couldn't be done by most folks. We understood that we were blessed to be in the position that we were in. But all I want to know is, who is the best? Who is the best in the business? Not the best in Chicago, not the best available, but the best in the world. Unlike a lot of folks, when I need to know something, I do not go to the internet. I don't Google nothing. I call people. I call people that I know, trust, and respect. And all I want to know at this moment is, who is the best? But before I called anybody, I got to tell you, I got down on my knees and I called my doctor. And I prayed. Oh man, let me tell you something. I say the same prayer every day for 4 years. Lord, if you would just let this woman touch the hem of your garment, I know she'll be all right. The first thing we need is a CT scan and an MRI. And then you need a biopsy. Now, who is the best in the world? That's brain surgery. Who's the best? This one guy's name kept coming up. Dr. James Chandler at Northwestern University Hospital in Chicago. We got to get a biopsy. We got to find out the nature of the tumor, the growth in Holly's brain. Now, what we did know is this thing had grown in such a way that it was putting so much pressure on her optic nerves, it was taking her vision, to the point where eventually she'll lose all sight in one eye and half the sight in the other eye. So, let's go. Who's the best? Man, we walk into this room at Northwestern University, and this young African-American gentleman walked in and stuck out his hand and said, "Hi, I'm James Chandler." I turned to Holly and I said, "Baby, that's a sign from God. We gonna be okay. Because you do not get to be the head of brain surgery at Northwestern University as an affirmative action position. Huh? Hey. You've been the smartest guy in the room for a long time. We do the procedure. Stage 2 inoperable tumor. We do more research. We learn we can't have radiation because the radiation beams will destroy the good cells and the bad cells. But it turns out there's something called proton radiation. Now, only 5 places in the country offer it: Boston, Oklahoma, Miami, Houston, and Bloomington, Indiana. And it's funny how God works sometimes. God has this way of creating space and time. At this point in my life, I have been on the road 20 days a month, every month for the last 3 years. Speaking engagements, business presentations, just doing my day job. But somehow, for the next 6 weeks, I got no appointments. I got nowhere to go and nothing to do. That was God's way of saying, no, I got something else for you to do. Even when we got the diagnosis, man, I was in denial, partially because of my past. I had overcome every obstacle, achieved every goal, slayed every dragon. So my position was, let's get to work. Next stop, Indiana. Now, Holly, Cassius, and I, we moved to Bloomington, Indiana. Cassius, by the way, is our son. Cassius, to be clear, is a 10-year-old boy trapped in the body of a 6-year-old dog. Somebody in here know what I'm talking about, huh? Whew, man, we start the radiation. Now, I don't know anything about this, but I'm having to learn everything real fast. I'm scared, but I can't let Holly know I'm scared. How does proton radiation work? What changes should we expect? What are the possible side effects? You know, my first reaction was that we're going to continue living our normal lives. And that included good food and working out. I said, baby, we got to keep our strength up. All right? We got to keep our strength up for this fight. We go eat and work out every day. I was concerned about her losing weight and becoming weaker because of the treatments. Eat and work out every day. Found a great gym. That's what we're going to do. Eat and work out. Moved into a Marriott extended stay. And it turns out right across the street from the Marriott is a Golden Corral. Man, I don't need to say another word, do I? Huh? All you can eat for $6.95. All you can eat. She does not lose a pound. I gained 20. Now, we've been told that it's going to be a year to 18 months before we know how effective the treatments have been. I mean, the radiation itself causes swelling. So that swelling's got to go down first, and then we'll see if there's had any impact on the growth and possibly, hopefully, shrinking the tumor. That's 12 to 18 months. So it was clear that my life was changed forever, dramatically. I mean, I had finally found a job tougher than being a single parent. Primary caregiver. Somebody in here know what I'm talking about. 36% of members of AARP say they are caregivers. And people say, well, you can get help. And look, let me tell you something. Ain't nobody go ever take care of somebody that you love like you. That ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna happen, period. Now, one day while we're in one of the doctor's offices and you know, people on their cell phones, they talk so loud you can overhear everything. And this one guy is saying to somebody, well, becoming a primary caregiver changes everything in a relationship. And Holly looked at me and she says, is that true? And I said, no, he don't know what he's talking about. The truth of the matter is, I didn't know. Being a primary caregiver is about learning how to do everything twice. I get up, get her up. Brush my teeth, brush her teeth. I get dressed, get her dressed. Tie my shoes, tie her shoes. you do everything twice. The other person always comes first. And being a primary caregiver, man, I had to learn more about being a woman than I ever wanted to know. What is this thing with the earring? Well, hold up. What is so important that the back of the earring gotta match the front of the earring? Ain't nobody gonna see it anyway. You can't see it. But Holly could feel it, and she say, no, that's not it. That's not it, right? I will never forget the time I dropped the back of the earring into the plush pile carpeting of a nice hotel. Couldn't find it. Now, we can't go anywhere until I find the back of this earring. I called the concierge at the hotel. He sent up half the staff from the hotel. We got down on our hands and knees crawling, looking for the back of this earring. And she found it. She stepped on it. And don't even get me started with this thing about putting on the bra. Hey, hold up, wait. You got to put the thing on. You got to get everybody situated, right? Right? Then you got to snap the thing in the bag. Men don't know how to put bras on. We know how to take them off. Hey, I had to learn, right? The other person always comes first. And sometimes only. You might not get to do nothing for you that day. I mean, I ran out of the house one day. I had to get Holly together, get her all squared away, make sure she got everything that she needs. I got to get to a big meeting downtown. I left the house and didn't know it till I got to my meeting. I left the house wearing 2 different color shoes. One black, one brown. One suede, one leather. One lace up, one loafer. Now that means I had a few chances to get that right. Man, I didn't know it until I got in the meeting. I'm sitting there talking to these people, sit back, cross my legs, and everybody's looking at my shoes. Didn't matter, I got that business anyway. Them folk probably felt like, boy, we need to get this man something. Being a primary caregiver, you do everything you do with love. It teaches you all about love and fear. Now on the outside, hey, I'm a fearless guy. And if you're an American man over 50 years old, you got some John Wayne in you. Huh? You got some John Wayne in you that says, no, we got this. We got this. We got access to the best minds in science and medicine. We got the insurance. We got the reach. We gonna be okay. On the inside, she couldn't know. I was scared too. Holly loved to read. One of the hardest things about this challenge that we were facing, she told me, was she didn't feel like she was getting any smarter because she couldn't read like she used to. So as an act of love, I began to read to her. And I say to her, I said, baby, you got to stop saying you only got half an eye. The truth of the matter is, now you got 2.5 because I'm giving you both of mine. Huh? Another time we had this very painful conversation. Psychiatrists, social workers, doctors have been telling us that the vast majority of people who wind up in these kinds of cases get divorced. They break up. Holly says to me one day, well, what if I lose you? And I pulled her face to me as close as I could so I knew she could see me. And I asked her, I said, baby, have I missed a step yet? Well, then I'm not going to. And that was the last time we had to deal with that. We had that handled right there in the house. That was done. We could handle that. You know, we didn't have to go outside for that. And you get to these spaces and places in your life sometimes, and sometimes you get to learn some things about yourself that you always knew, but you get to see it demonstrated. My greatest asset and greatest fault as a person is I am loyal. If you've been there for me, I'm gonna be there for you. I would have been a good dog. Sometimes the most important thing that you can do in your life is exactly that. Let somebody that you love know, I'll be there. I don't know what these doctors gonna say. I don't know what this MRI is gonna say. I don't know what the CT scan is gonna say. I don't know what this pathologist is gonna say. But you know, I'm gonna be there. That's being a primary caregiver. That's life reimagined. Stage 2 inoperable, 12 to 18 months before we know anything. Holly starts to fall down to the point where she broke the same arm twice in 2 years. First time, it was a nice clean break. No surgery, just put a cast on it, she's good to go. Get on a plane, go to Hawaii on vacation, no problem. The second time, the doctors take a look at it and say it's pulverized. You can't just put a cast on it. We had to put in 4 titanium pins. And Holly lived like that the last 4 months of her life. I had to change that dressing on that pin, on that arm, twice a day. We didn't know it yet, but the tumor had changed. There was fluid buildup in Holly's brain, and this was putting pressure on the nerves that controlled the left side of her body, so she started losing her balance. One day, I had to pick her up 4 times. Get back in to see Dr. Chandler, do another CT scan, and the doctor says, we got to do something here. There's fluid buildup in the brain, and we've got to drain that fluid off the pressure out of there and drain it into our abdomen, and that's going to help with the balance. But we got to take another biopsy of this brain. So now we got a stage 4 tumor. Rehab, 6 weeks. People come to Chicago from all over the world to go to something called the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago. And let me tell you something. It has given me a new perspective on what it means to struggle. All this stuff that we're dealing with out here every day, all this stuff is negotiable. We are all playing some form of let's make a deal. Huh? You trying to make something happen, you trying to get something, you go get it or you not. That's let's make a deal. But when you land flat on your back and can't move nothing but your right foot, that's a non-negotiable position. Stock market, housing market, job market, all that stuff out there is negotiable. But when you see somebody that you love, 55 years old, struggling to try to learn how to walk again, trying to learn how to eat with a fork again, that's non-negotiable. Had to go to New York, major business, couldn't reschedule, had to do it, got to keep it. Holly's in the rehab center and she knows that I ain't doing too good right now. I'm struggling. And I know we got one arrow in the quiver, chemo. And her age group, 55 years of age, with chemo, you got 14 months to live. And that is no discussion on quality of life. So I'm struggling with this. Had this major speaking engagement, got to keep it. Get to New York, and Holly calls me right before I walked up to the stage, and she says to me, you know what? I walked 700 feet today. That was her way of saying, if I can do that, then you can do this. She had some John Wayne in her too. 6 weeks in rehab, getting ready to come home, had to reconfigure the whole house. Everything has got to be accessible now. Everything they got in that hospital, we got to have it in the house. Hospital bed, the rails, the shower, everything. Got to have it here. Now, I'm still in denial. I'm still saying, baby, we're going to be okay. We got this. We're going to be okay. The very day that we were supposed to go in for our first chemo treatment, Holly had a stroke. That was it. That was life reimagined. I was told that we have 14 months with chemo, and again, not taking into any consideration quality of life. That's 14 months with chemo. It takes 12 to 18 months to recover from a stroke under the best conditions. But that's where we're at. We're in the crosshairs. I can't be in denial anymore. And you know what? Every time I got weak, my wings got weak, God would send me some angels. Couple of Holly's friends, Sheila Dixon, my best friend, Sydney Cat, and one of Holly's friends from way back, Nancy Kavanaugh. And I got to tell you something, man. The cavalry might not be coming, but I put together a damn good posse. Huh? We get back to the hospital, get the swelling to stop in the brain, but the tumor is so fragile she could have another stroke. So we move into a subacute facility, 24-hour coverage. Sheila Dixon moved into that facility with Holly. And she pretty much sat in that chair right in Holly's room for 10, 12, 14 hours a day. Now, unbeknownst to me, she had become the nursing supervisor. And she would just sit there and you would just, she would be saying to these people, no, baby, what you doing? No, don't turn her like that. She don't like that. No, we don't do that. One time a man came in the room, certified nursing assistant, and she told him, no, leave the room. You can't be in here. We need her, and her. Now we're gonna turn her this way, and then we're gonna get her hair done, and she wanna get her nails done tomorrow. Now that's what we're gonna do, okay? Man, at this point, all of Holly's output channels are gone. But she can hear and respond to everything that you're saying. She hears everything that you're saying. And the only way we can communicate is with her right foot. And I had to start being honest with myself, though. I had to start thinking about a DNR, do not resuscitate. I had just read this article by a guy named Joe Klein, Time magazine. Mr. Klein, in his words, had to become the death panel for both of his parents within a 6-month period. And he wrote about letting people die with dignity. I read this article and I said, okay, I get it. I finally got to do this. I got to sign this DNR. I go in there, I got the DNR in one hand, but in the other hand, I got Holly's foot. And I'm just talking, and I don't know why, but I said, baby, you want a cup of coffee? And I get this foot. I said, you want a cheese Danish? I get the foot. Now, what do? You got a DNR in one hand, in the other hand, you got this foot telling you to go get me a coffee and a Danish. What do? You go get the coffee and the Danish. That's what you do, all right? I had to suck up the coffee in the straw, put a little suction at the top, and just drop it in the mouth, and you could see her. And we were having coffee. Some of our last conversations that I had with Holly were her asking me, what are you gonna do? Now that we see how truly short life can be, what are you gonna do? That was my life reimagined moment. She and I have been talking for some time about where we are, where she was, where I was. But now the question was staring me in the face. What are you going to do after Holly? And you know what? For 30 years, I've been doing something that I was good at, business-wise, not just good at, one of the best in the business. But after 30 years, I don't want to do it anymore. One of the best in the business, made a ton of money doing it. I don't want to do it anymore. It's not what gets me excited. I started taking my own advice and I said, I'm getting out of the brokerage business. I've been telling people for a long time, if you're doing something that you're not passionate about or committed to, then you're compromising yourself every day. And you know what? You cannot fake the funk for long. So I'm getting out of the brokerage business. I've been thinking about spending, and not just thinking about it, but I know I've been spending more time and energy on other things anyway. But it was these last conversations with Holly that led me to just push away and begin to reimagine my life. One day, all of us, we're going to get to a stretch of road where there's no maps, no road signs, and no GPS. There's going to be a fork in this road. And one way is going to say, I'm scared and don't know what to do. The other way is going to say, I'm scared, but I'm stepping out on faith. That's the road you got to take. And when you push away, sometimes you just need to make a good, clean break. All right then, shut it down. Shut down the business. All right? New York office, shut it down. 18 years, shut it down. You can't get to the next chapter without turning some pages. I mean, a lot of us would just like to read like this. It don't work like that. All right? And you know what? Speaking of reading, there was a book that Holly and I were reading. That was the last book I ever had a chance to read to her. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. And I would sit there and read, and she's giving me the foot, and I read slowly, pages and chapters, and I knew that when I finished this book, Holly ain't gonna be here. I haven't finished that book yet. I don't know if I ever will. Yeah. When you lose a loved one, you reevaluate everything. What are you gonna do with your time? It all comes down to time. That is all we got. You can lose a house, get a new house. Lose a job, get a new job. But when you lose the person that you love more than life, that's irreplaceable. You can make money, you can lose money. You can't make time. You can say to every person you meet over the next couple of days, how much time you got to work before you're eligible for retirement? People know. How much gas is in the car? People know. How much time you got left in your life? Don't nobody know? Time is the ultimate luxury. Some of us get more than others. Some of us get more than we deserve. But none of us know how much we have left in our lives. We just don't know. You know, there's a scene from that film that gets at reimagining life. It's the scene that takes place on the basketball court. That scene wasn't written as you saw it. In the original script, when the little boy throws up the ball and says, I'm going pro, the father says, forget it. You could never do that. I was no good at it, so that means that you can't do it. Don't ever let me hear you say you're going to do that. Man, to put that in perspective, I got to tell you this story about my mom. I had one of those old-fashioned mothers who taught me from the very beginning that I could do or be anything I wanted to do or be. Apparently, I took it too far. I made in my mind my first ambition in life, I was going to become Miles Davis. Man, Mama said I could be anybody. I chose Miles. I studied music theory. I played trumpet for 9 years. I got pretty good. And when I say I wanted to become Miles Davis, I had it bad. People would ask me as a little boy, what you gonna be when you grow up? I had it so bad, I started talking like Miles, and I'd tell them, I'm gonna be Miles Davis. Thank God my mother heard me say it one time. Mama heard me say it. She said, son, we need to talk. We sat down at the kitchen table. She explained to me, baby, you're pretty good with that thing, but you can't be Miles Davis. Ain't but one, and he got that job. And I had to look at the facts. The facts were, at 18 years of age, Miles Davis was in New York City playing with Quincy Jones and Dizzy Gillespie. At the same age, I was playing with some boys named Pookie and Ray Ray. Hey, we were good, but it wasn't gonna happen. But the point is, another important decision was made as a young guy, and that decision was I was going to become world-class at something. I just had to find my button. That one thing that turns you on so much that you would do it for free. Years ago, there was this guy named Joe. I'm not going to say his last name because I do know it. He saw me on Oprah. He sends me an email and he says to me, I saw you on Oprah. I hate Oprah. I hate Will Smith. And he used the N-word. But he says, every time I see you, I don't see a color. I learned to hate other people from my father. I'm going to buy your book because I think you have helped me change my life. That was one of those things that sends chills through your body. I'll never forget that. So when it was time for me to do my second book, Start Where You Are, I thought, well, let me just reach out to this guy and see how he's doing. Get him on the phone and I say, hey man, what's happening? And I got a new book coming out and I want to use your letter in my book. Is that okay? He says, oh, no, Mr. Gardner, please, don't do that. You see, I finally found out what makes me happy. I am now the drummer in an Afro-Cuban reggae band. Hey, that's life reimagined. Huh? It don't always look like you thought it would. That was Joe finding his button. And you know, maybe it's time for a lot of us over 50 to not be looking for a job. Maybe it's time for us to be starting to find our button and then hit it. Find it and be bold enough to go after it and accept the fact that ain't nobody got to dig it but you. That's the hard part, because a lot of times we want to have some external validation, like it's okay, it's a good thing, it's all right for you to do that. Hey, ain't nobody got to dig it but you. That's my mama talking. This is important because we're all 50 plus now. We have to accept that, you know what? There've been more yesterdays than there will be tomorrows. Do I need to say that again? Huh? There've been more yesterdays than there will be tomorrows. Losing Holly made that crystal clear to me. And when you find that button, and I can't tell you how to find it, the truth of the matter is a lot of us probably already know, man, you got to push it. And remember this, baby steps count too, as long as you're going forward. Dr. Martin Luther King put it best for me when he once said, you may not see the whole staircase, but you got to take the first step. We all take strides when we're clear, we're certain, and there's no obstacles. You got to take them baby steps sometimes when you don't know. And I think the AARP folks are getting this. They know that the old paradigm is over. So the button thing is front and center for a lot of us right now. We're looking to discover what's next in our lives, working, volunteering, starting a business. All this change we're talking about is getting people to ask questions like, how do I use my years of experience to achieve success on my terms? How do I retool my skills for the new economy? How do I deepen relationships with families and friends? Where does fun come in? Some time ago, I was on CNN talking about the economy. And I was saying how important it is to understand that the next wave of entrepreneurial zest and zeal in this country is going to be led by people who are over 50 years old. You know why I say that? Because those are people who were let go from key positions in corporate America in their prime. And all these technical wizards and bright guys, they're missing something. They're missing the 3 R's, not the reading, writing, and arithmetic. They're missing the rep, the rap, and the Rolodex. Huh? Reputation, history in the business, rap. You gotta be able to communicate your ideas. Rolodex. Mama used to always say to me, boy, the best time to make friends is before you need friends. We're heading straight into a creator economy. Now, a creator economy is where a lot of people are just finding their buttons. They are ordinary, passionate people all over the places that are doing things that they're truly passionate about, pursuing big ideas, innovative solutions, being entrepreneurial. Think about that. the idea of being a creator is probably a little unsettling. And it's so contrary to the life course we've grown accustomed to, the steady job, career trajectory, and so on. But you know why? Because this is life reimagined. This is changing things up. This is 50-year-old folks pushing that button. You see, we don't need to reinvent ourselves. I never really bought into that whole reinvention thing. I mean, at this point, we are who we are. Most of us have the time. We ain't got the time or energy to be reinventing nothing. What we do need, though, is the confidence that the skills, talent, and expertise that we've accumulated during our lives can create value somehow. Skills, talent, and expertise are transferable. Why not use them to do something that we love? Why not use them to produce something, to build something, to love something, and own it? This is finding your button and pushing it. This is work reimagined. And that proverbial question, is the glass half full or the glass half empty? Hey, my position is the glass is half full. The other half ain't yours no way, so don't worry about it. Let's roll with what we got. Hey, a blank slate and all our imaginations are right here. Own it. And always be mindful that the cavalry is not coming. Ain't no backup. So what am I going to do? I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 3 things. I'm going to work less, make more money, and enjoy my life. Now that might sound like something just cocky to say. Let me talk about that for a second. That ain't just something cocky to say. Work less. What does that mean? That means I am no longer willing to do anything just to make money. No matter how good I am at it, I am no longer willing to spend another moment, a second, a minute of my life doing something just to make money. And the truth of the matter is, when you're doing something, though, that you're tremendously excited about, that you're passionate about, that you're committed to, you're probably going to be working harder than you ever worked in your life. But when you're loving it, that's not work, is it? That's not work. I'm telling you, make more money. What does that mean? In my case, cut all these expenses, man. How many houses can you live in at one time? How many cars can you drive at one time? And get some people out of your pocket. Hey, wait. We all got some people who've been living in our pockets. The first people I'm putting out of my pocket are my children. A lot of us tried to give all our children everything that we didn't have, thinking that we were giving them a better life. And you know what? We're not giving them a better life, we're just giving them better stuff. Man, my children developed this highly evolved sense of entitlement. They're walking around like they're the little chocolate Kennedys. Hey, look, I'm just being honest. I'm talking about my kids, right? You know, they're walking around like we just got it like this, we just rolling like this. I had to explain to them one day, you know what, hold up. Y'all not rolling, I'm rolling. Y'all riding. There's a difference between riding and rolling. When you riding, when you rolling, you get to say when it stopped. When you riding, you hope it never does. I'll never forget this one time. Man, I came home one day, and I had to explain to my children, and I don't believe in using a whole bunch of bad language, but I did say to my children one day, look at, you know what? Y'all see all this stuff? This is my stuff. I made this, you didn't. I came home one day, I'll never forget this. I'm hearing this arguing in my house, and I walk out, what's going on here? My daughter is 8, my son's 12. My daughter runs up to me and she says, Papa, tell Chris I'm gonna get you a Ferrari when you die. They in here whacking up the goods, right? She 8, he 12, can't nobody drive. They in there whacking up the goods. And this all happened around Christmas time. And I will never forget, it was Christmas time and report card time. And the house looked like Norman Rockwell's house. We got the tree up and all the presents decorated, and they bring home these report cards starting out with the back end of the alphabet. And I told him, I says, no, you know what? Christmas Day, don't open nothing. We're gonna leave everything right here until that next report card come out. Man, and leave the tree up. And all their little friends came over in January and February, like, what's up with the tree, man? We had a Rottweiler at the time, Bruno. Bruno's a 150-pound Rottweiler. And he opened everything under that tree. Ate the PlayStation, hey, leave him alone, all right? But that was the beginning of me helping them get it. Sometimes like this, when this happens, I mean, you take some real hard looks at your relationships with your children. Getting back to cutting expenses, I mean, getting people out of your pocket. Enjoying life, what does that mean? Man, I've made a commitment to get into the best physical shape of my life. Let me tell you something. I've recently, with a whole lot of work, I've dropped 27 pounds. 27 pounds, thank you. Thank you. You know what? When I came out of the Navy, I was 23 years old, 220 pounds with a 32-inch waist. Now, today, 58 years old, 220 pounds, and the only way I'm gonna have a 32-inch waist is with some radical form of surgical intervention. It ain't gonna happen, but I'm okay with that, all right? The only person happier about my new body than me is my tailor. And he's like, man, I cannot take your pants up anymore. If I take your pants up one more time in the back, you're gonna have a pouch. Enjoying life, getting in the best shape of my life. And I want to do work that is meaningful to me, and that means continuing to work with AARP. That means continuing to represent AARP at every opportunity that I get. I was just with some folks last night in New York, continuing my work in private equity in Africa. And I'm working on some ideas in media. For instance, all this talk about life reimagined. What about love reimagined? Huh? What happens? I mean, at the end of the day, we all just want to be healthy and we want to be loved. What happens when you're single, 60, and sexy? Hey, don't answer that. Hey, huh? Well, why not some television for grown folks? Single, 60, and sexy. I'm working on that, okay? That's love reimagined. And that's a lot. That's where I'm at. And the beautiful thing about this transitional part of my relationship with Holly is no regrets. No regrets. To have loved and been loved unconditionally. You know what that means? Unconditionally. That means somebody knows you and loves you anyway. Huh? Unconditionally. One of the last things last conversations we had was her saying to me that, you know what, you don't have to say that you wish we had done this or you wish we had done that, because we did everything. We did all that. And one of the last things that she said to me was, I don't want you to cry because it's over. I want you to smile because it happened. Mm-hmm. Whew. Whew. Man, girl has some Barry White in her too. So, you know, and I'm gonna say this, I gotta share this with you. When you do lose a loved one, you're gonna have some people come in and out and tell you what you should be doing. Now, somebody in here know what I'm talking about. You got some folks come in here and tell you what you should do now. This is what you need to do, okay? And then leave. And you're like, right here, this is your life, right? And you got some friends that's gonna turn into experts. Holly had this one friend who found the one doctor on the internet who guaranteed he could cure brain cancer. On the internet. Now got Northwestern University, Duke University, and the University of Chicago saying to me, no, this is where you at. One quack saying, I guarantee I can cure cancer. We don't see the quack, so that creates an issue with me and the friend. So these friends, they're gonna come, they're gonna go. But this is your life. And they go fly back to New Jersey or New Mexico, wherever they came from, all right? That's part of the experience of loss. But big picture, keeping people close and finding kindred spirits. This is all part of life reimagined. For too long, too many of us have been living in exile in a place called things. It's time to come back to a place where there's friends, families, and folks. People are connected. I mean, that's what's important. A place where being connected helps us find our buttons. Friends, families, and folks. We all got somewhere because somebody else helped us. Somebody else saw something that maybe at some point we didn't see in ourselves. And you know what? You can keep on seeking people who will help bring out your best. We can keep on meeting people anywhere and everywhere, people like ourselves, people who share our circumstances, understand our concerns, and have common points of view. It's like Barry Rand said, it's time to get local. It's time to make it personal. It's time for two-way conversations. Time to build a support network of people like us. And being connected, that is what is important. That's where we find our power. AARP is real clear on where 50+ people are at. That they feel that they've earned the right to enjoy their work and succeed in the future, and that they know life isn't reimagined alone. So the folks at AARP are working hard to create space for this, sharing experiences, connecting with mentors, exchanging ideas, and building communities. And you can count on me to be your ally, to be your personal advocate, because of where I've been and what I've been through. People 50+ are all living in the same neighborhood, not demographically, but chronologically speaking. We're all in the same space. Some of these events, if they haven't happened for you already, they will. And it doesn't matter where you live or what your zip code is, because chronologically, we're all in the same space. Your work life is going to change. Your love life is going to change. Your relationships with your children are going to change. And when you get to that point, the big question becomes, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? So chronologically, we're all in the same neighborhood. But the good thing is at AARP, we got boots on the ground. A couple of years ago, after the movie came out, I had this opportunity to go to the Oscars. And I mean, as big as that thing is on television, it's even bigger in real life. Now, why am I here? I'm not just here. I'm here because the biggest movie star in the world is nominated for an Academy Award for playing me. So now it's the Oscars on steroids. I got 2 tickets to this thing. Who are you gonna take? I take my daughter. Man, I don't know anything about women's clothes, but there's this woman, Vera Wang. She's supposed to be hot. She made my daughter a dress. These good folks from this little company called Chapard let my daughter borrow $500,000 worth of diamonds on her signature, which is really my signature. I walked behind her all night and I said, you better not drop nothing. You know, where's my earring? Man. And you're on that red carpet and you're surrounded by every rock star, movie star, wannabe, has-been on the planet. It's a pretty heady experience. But the very next week, I had a speaking engagement right here in New Orleans. The very next week, the next Sunday. And sometimes God doesn't trust my hearing, so he puts me in places to show me things. I do my speaking engagement in the morning, and something said to me, go. Go see for yourself. I went to a neighborhood called the Lower Ninth Ward. I had never seen anything so devastating in my entire life. Imagine a cemetery where all of the tombstones are churches, houses, schools, and businesses. No people. I see this one little old man. He's outside, he's cutting the grass with a push mower. I make the driver stop the car. I can't just roll by. I make him stop the car. I go over to the little old man, and I don't know what else to say, but I say, man, you got your yard looking good. He looked up at me and he said, this ain't my yard. I live over there. This is my friend's yard. And every time I cut my grass, I cut his because I know one day my friend is coming home. Man, now the first thing that went through my mind is, do I have any friends like that? That was not the big question. The big question was, have I been that kind of friend? And I know now, having lost Holly, that I've been that kind of friend. A year later, back in New Orleans, same neighborhood, same house. Go over there, and there's that same little old man sitting outside, but this time he's not sitting alone. He's sitting under the newly planted shade tree, and he's playing checkers. And I could tell by the look on his face and the smile in his eyes that his friend had come home. That's life reimagined. We need to reimagine a place in our lives where communities mean something. Sometimes it takes an encounter with a little old man or losing the love of your life to help you do just that. And my last words up here today will be this. At times, we're all going to fall. That's life. When you get up, that's life reimagined.